Steve Jobs, Apple's comeback story. What if I told you that one of the biggest companies in the world was once just months away from dying? Apple, the maker of iPhones, iPads, and MacBooks, was on the edge of collapse in the 1990s. But then, the man who once created it, but had been kicked out, came back. And his return became one of the greatest comeback stories in business history. The rise and fall. The story begins in 1976. A young Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were building computers in a garage. With very little money but huge ambition, they created the Apple I and later the Apple II. These machines didn't just sell, they changed how people saw computers. Then came the Macintosh in 1984. It had a graphical interface, a mouse, and a design that felt friendly and human. But behind the scenes, things weren't so friendly. Jobs clashed with Apple's board and CEO. His vision was bold, but his leadership was harsh. By 1985, he was forced out of his own company. Imagine that, the man who built Apple, walking away with nothing. In the years after Jobs left, Apple lost its spark. Products became confusing. Marketing didn't connect with people. Competitors like Microsoft dominated. By 1996, Apple was bleeding money. Analysts said it had only a few months left before bankruptcy. The return of Jobs. But fate had other plans. Steve Jobs didn't just disappear after leaving Apple. He started a new company called Next, building powerful computers for education and business. He also bought Pixar, which later gave us Toy Story and changed animation forever. In 1997, Apple bought Next to use its software. And with that purchase, Steve Jobs was back at Apple. He returned to a company that was lost and broken. The first thing he did was cut the clutter. Apple had dozens of products. Jobs killed most of them, keeping only the ones that mattered. His philosophy was simple: focus on a few things and do them better than anyone else. He also brought a new energy. He told Apple employees, "We're not just making computers, we're making tools for people who think different." That same year, Apple launched the Think Different campaign. Black and white images of Einstein, Gandhi, and other world changers filled TV screens. Apple was telling the world, "We're back, and we stand for something bigger." The comeback products. But words weren't enough. Apple needed products that proved it could lead again. In 1998, Jobs introduced the iMac. It was bold, colorful, and fun. Unlike the boring gray computers of the time, the iMac looked like the future. It was a hit, selling millions and putting Apple back in the spotlight. But Jobs wasn't stopping there. He saw a bigger opportunity: music. In 2001, Apple launched the iPod, a tiny device that could hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. It changed the way people listened to music. Soon, with the iTunes Store, Apple didn't just sell devices, it controlled digital music itself. Then came 2007, the year that changed everything. Steve Jobs walked on stage in his black turtleneck and jeans. He told the audience, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." The iPhone wasn't just a phone. It was an iPod, a phone, and an internet device all in one. Touchscreen, apps, a design that felt like magic. And once again, Apple changed the world. The App Store followed in 2008, opening doors for developers everywhere. Suddenly, Apple wasn't just selling products. It was building an ecosystem. From there came the iPad, the Apple Watch, and more. Each product made Apple stronger. Each launch made people believe again. The legacy. By the time Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, Apple had become the most valuable company on Earth. From near bankruptcy to global dominance in just over a decade. But Jobs' comeback wasn't only about money. It was about vision. He believed technology should serve people, that it should be simple, beautiful, and powerful. He once said, "Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works." That mindset turned Apple into more than a tech company. It became a cultural force. Steve Jobs' journey shows us something important. Failure is not the end. Getting kicked out of Apple could have broken him. But instead, he learned, he grew, and he came back stronger. Apple's comeback story is a reminder that perseverance, focus, and vision can change everything. Jobs himself put it best. "I'm convinced that about half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance." And that is why the story of Steve Jobs and Apple's comeback will always inspire dreamers, innovators, and creators around the world.